I first moved to Tokyo almost 4 years ago, in August of 2021. Coming from America, when I was picking my first place to stay, I knew next to nothing about the various areas of Tokyo. I decided to get a room in a share house in Shinjuku without thinking much about it, since I knew Shinjuku was a major place in Tokyo. That's how I actually ended up in Okubo, which is definitely not Shinjuku, because I didn't know the difference between Shinjuku Ward and Shinjuku, the area around the station. Basically, when someone talks about Shinjuku, they're referring to the neighborhood around Shinjuku Station, while the place I chose to stay for the 2 weeks of mandatory quarantine was in Shinjuku Ward, and its closest station is called Okubo Station. Shinjuku Ward is way bigger than the Shinjuku neighborhood, and people will almost always specify if they're talking about Shinjuku Ward rather than the Shinjuku neighborhood. Basically, it's like the difference between New York State and New York City. I ended up loving Okubo, my accidental temporary home, and I actually chose to live there later on in my time in Tokyo. Okubo is one of the dirtiest neighborhoods in Tokyo and has many foreign residents from places like Nepal, India, China, Korea, and other countries. The lively and unique atmosphere there really attracted me. Whenever I tell Japanese people this, they are usually confused and surprised. Anyways, I arrived at this room in a somewhat random neighborhood, full of excitement about moving to Tokyo for the first time. It was kind of a strange situation because I wasn't really allowed to leave my room due to a mandatory 14-day quarantine. I had to download an app that tracked my location, and I had to be available for video calls at any time. Basically, the only thing I could do was take a walk. I wasn't supposed to leave my room even to take a walk, but I just left my government tracked phone in my room and hoped they didn't call while I was out. They never did. And I promise I'll get to the homeless kids eventually. Anyways, I walk outside that first night because it's very hot during the day. And on my walk, I quickly found dozens of these big, bright signs with images of these flashy, effeminate men on them. That's when I first learned about host clubs. On that same walk, I went past Toyoko Square. The host clubs and Toyoko Square are both in Kabukicho, which is a red light district within the larger neighborhood of Shinjuku. Kabukicho is right next to Shinjuku Station, so it's a very busy and central location. Almost as central as it gets. The name Toyoko is short for next to Toho Cinemas, because Toyoko is a square area next to a big theater. Toho Cinemas was only built recently, in 2015, and is a part of the city and major developers trying to clean up the area as much as possible, bringing in more mainstream businesses and attempting to clamp down on red light activity. It's bizarre because now the red light sex businesses are definitely still very active. So you have a bunch of families with little kids watching the newest Pokemon movie, while businessmen are getting blowjobs 50 feet away. On your way to the theater to watch Moana 2, you have to basically willfully ignore the storefronts, advertising sex with girls in high school uniform cosplay. Building Toho Cinemas in an attempt to clean up the district also gave rise to the homeless kids with the world's best branding. The Toyoko kids grew in number during COVID, and now Toyoko is a household name, with the kind of catchy shortened name that Japanese people love, like Makudo for McDonald's and Staba, which means Starbucks. I took this first walk in late 2021, and I took many subsequent walks during this time and later when I moved to Okubo. I had always liked taking walks, and getting to walk in such interesting places was awesome. Before moving to Tokyo, I was only able to walk in insanely boring suburban concrete nothing. At their height, the Toyoko kids had a pseudo-Skid Row type situation going on, only more fashionable and much cleaner with fewer needles and drugs. They had brought in these big couches and chairs and stuff, God knows how and from where, basically making their personal living room in one of the busiest places in the world. This is like a 5-minute walk from Shinjuku Station, which is the busiest train station in the world. Then, throughout 2023, the homeless kids were kicked out of Toyoko. And now, when I walk by Toyoko Square, I feel sadness. By speaking here, I'm trying to figure out why I feel this sadness. One thing I like about the Toyoko kids is the playful rebelliousness. Obviously, you're not supposed to camp out in the middle of Shinjuku, like it's your personal bedroom and living room, and many adults are upset by it and spend a lot of money and time to make them stop. And the kids dress kind of cool, and their general lifestyle attracts other kids from across the country into joining them. When I think about it, these kids are kind of the same demographic as the kids that made Harajuku, a fashion capital of the world. It was Japanese kids under 20 dressing cool that started the massive phenomenon of Harajuku. Now, as Harajuku remains static, A 4-minute train ride away in Shinjuku, under 20 Japanese kids are doing a bizarro version of the Harajuku phenomenon. It's undeniably cool, and the more adults hate it, the cooler it is. I love this about the Toyoko kids. I guess that's part of why I miss them. I should say that look, it would obviously be best if kids weren't homeless, and it would be best if they had a happy and comfortable home that they could go back to. So in that sense, it would be best if the Toyoko kids didn't exist. The city of Tokyo clearly also doesn't want the Toyoko kids to exist, but feels like they come at it from a different perspective. Their main approach seems to be sending in policemen to literally kick out the kids and then build fences around the entire area, making the area very ugly but with no homeless kids or any other people. You can actually still see the Toyoko kids at this point. They're basically across the street and in different nearby corners of Kabukicho. At night, they split the fee for a hotel room among a bunch of kids and share the room. The point is, clearing Toyoko Square doesn't seem to help the kids, and in the case where the kids stick around, it seems to make their lives definitely worse. Now, instead of the square, they're scattered in far more uncomfortable street corners. The city seems to focus on short-term cosmetic fixes rather than actually improving the lives of children. They've only made their lives worse, and also created an ugly and empty square surrounded by fences, like a prison. An effort to actually help the children, of course, would be good. From what I read, the services available to the Toyoko kids is very poor. There are many complaints that when they seek help, the government will just try to put them back with their family, which is where they just ran away from. But again, I'm not really sure about the reliability of any of this information. This last point is kind of like my first point, but more political. I believe there needs to be tension, conflict, and anarchy in a society for the society to have any sort of interesting culture. I've been to Singapore, and it's basically like Disneyland. It's easily the most boring country I've visited. So much GDP there, and not a single noteworthy artistic achievement. And honestly, parts of Japan rival Singapore in its boringness. But definitely not the Toyoko Square, because of the Toyoko kids. Whether the Toyoko kids themselves birthed some innovative trend or not, honestly, the Toyoko kids themselves are already a great piece of performance art. You can almost see a self-conscious performance in their lifestyle and clothing. And whether the Toyoko kids themselves remain culturally important or not, the existence of subversive, vibrant forces in society is necessary for a rich culture. The Toyoko kids is just one very small example of a subversive, vibrant cultural force, but maybe that is another reason why I miss the homeless kids of Kabukicho.